What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be ranking the BFA healers from worst to best. But before we get into that, I'd like to address a few things before I start. The last video had a little bit of a rough reception. It wasn't bad. For the most part, most of you guys are really awesome when it comes to the videos that I make. But in general, I think people are misunderstanding exactly what the point of these videos are, and I'd like to just clear that up a little bit. The point of these videos is to give a point of view on certain types of classes that I enjoy playing. This video is not to accurately describe what is going to be the best class and what is going to be the worst class in the game. Best and worst means best and worst to my playstyle. I don't enjoy playing certain classes like I enjoy playing other classes. For instance, in my last video, just because I enjoy the playstyle of a monk the most for tanking does not mean I don't enjoy the playstyle of a druid. It just means that I prefer the playstyle of a monk over a druid, and the monks aren't necessarily stronger than the druid overall. The druid might even have a better overall kit than the monk. I just enjoy playing the monk better. The same thing is going to be true for this new list that I'm making. Just because one of the healers on this list is quote-unquote the worst does not mean that it is not the most fun, does not mean that it is an uninteresting spec, does not mean it's a weak spec by any means. All these healers can work really well in any situation possible. I've never seen a healer turned away because of its healing spec. Even in a really progressed mythic team, if you're a really good healer, you're probably going to be wanted. It doesn't really matter what class you're playing as long as you're good at it. That's really what it comes down to in the end. Now, to end this intro, let's begin with number 6, Holy Priest. I tried to be as non-biased as possible, but the spec in the game which I dislike the most has probably always been Holy Priest. I've always felt like the Holy Priest has suffered from a very bland, predictive style of healing, which I don't enjoy. I really enjoy the combination of playstyles. I really enjoy, a flow of abilities. And for the most part, I feel like the Holy Priest has everything that it needs to succeed and do well in any expansion it's ever in. I feel like a Holy Priest is never really weak. I feel like the only time a Holy Priest is only considered weak is whenever the other spec, which we'll talk about later, is considered way stronger. Therefore, the Holy Priest is considered weak. But I think in general, the Holy Priest is typically always considered a decent healer. The only time you ever really see a problem emerge when you're talking about the Holy Priest is when we start comparing it to the other healers. The biggest benefits that the priest is going to bring to the table is always going to be life grip. Life grip and other abilities like Divine Hymn, and the fact that you can basically make the entire raid or the entire healing team and be influenced with the type of innervate that is a raid cooldown. But when it comes to the actual mechanical gameplay, we're talking using Renew, using your Flash Shield, using your Miracles, your abilities, your Power Words. These abilities aren't inherently fun to use. They tick the boxes of being acceptable, they tick the boxes of familiarity, and in general, if you can play any other healer, you probably can play Holy Priest very well. I really do enjoy the use of Life Grip. I really do enjoy the use of Pain Suppression. I really do like the Angelic Feathers and the way that those use in the utility and in a raid and dungeon encounter. I like the Priest as a whole, but I don't feel like it has anywhere near the toolkit and the playability that the other classes do, and that's where it falls flat for me. I do really think this is a great healer, and I do suggest it for anyone who is interested in playing it. If you know how to play a Holy Priest, it'll help you set up for the rest of the healers, because they are basically all built off the healing systems that were in place way back in the day and worked off of priests in general. So it's really good for you to start off playing a priest, but I don't feel like in this current state, Holy Priest is really performing to where I'd like it to perform, playstyle and mechanics wise. If you're looking for something smooth and reliable, definitely play Holy Priest. Number 5, Resto Shaman. It's the end of the world and we should all be afraid. All jokes aside. No, really, Resto Shaman honestly is like one of my favorite specs of all time. I've been playing Resto Shaman in competitive raiding guilds for a long time. I really enjoy how healing shamans work. I enjoy blanking raids with Riptides. I enjoy chain heal. I enjoy everything about it. I just don't feel like this expansion really pushes it forward at all. And in fact, in this run specifically, my spirit link was just absolutely broken. It wasn't actually saving anyone. It was actually just killing people randomly. And for the most part, Shaman has been the same for almost 3 expansions straight, I think. We got Gift of the Queen last expansion, but really, that was the only thing we really had new for a while. And right now, In BFA, really, they've just taken things away from us and we've been left with our base gameplay. I've always felt like it's really not hard to play a Shaman. Shaman skills, for the most part, the Shaman skill cap's pretty low, but you know, there's a little bit of depth sprinkled in there a little bit. And that is what makes the spec fun. That's what makes the spec interesting, is that little bit of depth, which is what most classes have. Most classes at their base are pretty simple, but, you know, they each have their own special thing that makes them interesting and makes that spec feel fluid enough. At least most of them do. And, you know, we still retain that with the Shaman a little bit. The Shaman still gets abilities that make it feel like it's unique and makes it feel like you really have to pay attention. But still, overall, it's really basic, and it's lost more than it's gained after the expansion's launch. The Shaman's a no-brainer. It's obviously one of the strongest specs for raiding. It's got an extremely strong build for Mythic Pluses, too. It's probably one of the strongest healers out there. That does not mean that it's fun, though. Compared to other healers, it's definitely not the most fun spec. Even though it's my favorite spec, it's definitely not the most fun out of any of them. And it definitely has a good, chunk of gameplay missing that other specs do bring. I do enjoy the fact that for the most part you have a lot of utility. Movement is an extremely positive influence for the Resto Shaman. We have Ghost Wolf, we have Spirit Walker's Grace, we have a lot of abilities that are instant cast and on the move, and it's really nice to have those in a lot of situations. By far, the Shaman is always going to be the cooldown king, and I don't think it's ever going to lose that top spot. You definitely want to have at least one Shaman on your team. When it comes down to it, the Shaman is really an excellent healer and is a benefit to any team that it is put into. I don't suggest anyone not roll a Shaman, and I think that every team should have it. I don't think that I could ever roll a Shaman again for an entire expansion, especially with the way that it's going right now. Shamans need more than what they have now. They need some love given to them. And on that, I think that most of the community can agree on that. If you want to be the king of healing, snipe heals, and pretty much top of the healing meters all freaking day, then I would suggest rolling a Resto Shaman. If you're looking for something with a little bit more depth, I suggest listening to the end of this video and really contemplating what you should be playing next expansion. And with that, I'd like to move on to number 4, Mistweaver Monk. Now we're getting into territory where I'm very indifferent on whether I'd like one healer over another. I really do enjoy the Monk healer. I really do enjoy the playstyle. I think Monk, in general, the playstyle is pretty fun. It's pretty elaborate. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of things that make it special and make you want to play it. One of the main things last expansion I found the most interesting about Monk was Essence Font. Essence Font's a really cool little ability. It makes you feel really, really strong and powerful. And, you know, this expansion, it still stays the same. It still is pretty strong. It still is fun. The biggest problem with Monk right now, though, is that we're losing abilities. We've lost our artifact ability from last expansion, and it feels a little weird. But it's nothing that's really game-changing or game-breaking to the point to where I don't want to play the class anymore. Much like the Druid, the biggest selling point for me on a Monk is their movement ability as well as their cooldowns and their toolkit as a whole. I really like having the options to put Tiger's Lust on a target or put Tiger's Lust on myself. It makes me really feel like I'm in the support role, the role in which I am supporting my team. I really enjoyed Chi-Ji as a cooldown. I really feel like he does his job properly and speeds around the room like a little coke addict and heals the entire group for you. As far as tank cooldowns, I feel like our cooldown's a little weak, but I also like the fact that I am absorbing blows in total, so I give the tanks a breather for like maybe a melee hit or half of a melee hit on a really strong boss. One of the biggest issues I have transitioning from one healer to another is just working out how Soothing Mist works and just realizing that Soothing Mist makes a lot of my abilities instant cast. But probably the most fun and most unique thing about the Monk is that you can fist weave most of your abilities into one another, and that feeling and that connection through fist weaving really makes the gameplay of the Monk really feel nice and unique, and it's different from other specs, and it's what makes that spec so high on my list. Overall, if you're looking for a really fun and interesting class that also likes to be in the melee fray a lot, I highly suggest rolling Mistweaver Monk. Number 3. Holy Paladin. I'm honestly surprised that this made it as far on the list as it did, because I'm not really as big of a healing Paladin fan as I would be other healers. Paladins are fun, and they have their own uniquities, but I'd never thought in a million years that I would be making them like one of my top healers of an expansion. Before I go any more in, it's clear that we are losing an ability. We are losing more than we're gaining again, once again, and that doesn't help the Paladin's overall goal and standing for me in the list. The reason why it's not farther up the list is because we are losing more than we are gaining. For me, the Paladin has always been a really fun class because of the fact that we have different types of hands that we can put on targets. You know, Blessing of Sacrifice, Blessing of Freedom, Blessing of Protection, and, you know, even back in the day, Blessing of Salvation. These are all the talents that I really look forward to using when I play a Paladin. On any spec, those are the talents that I think about the most. For some reason, Holy Shock just feels good. It's always felt good. It always feels like a really strong ability, and it really works to synergize the entire playstyle of the Holy Paladin. It's really weird when we talk about the playstyle and the feel of a Paladin, because really when I talk about healing, I really think of clothies, I really think of weak characters, I think of characters that sit in the back line and heal the tank. But when it comes to Holy Paladin, really, they're really in the grill of the fight. They're always there. They should be there. They have the capabilities of being really, really strong damage dealers too as well. I remember at the beginning of the last expansion just having Holy Paladins go around popping all their cooldowns and just going ham on bosses. And the whole reason they were doing that is to help us meet DPS requirements for certain bosses that just needed more DPS. At the time, most healers couldn't do what they did, and I still feel like that's the kind of theme of what a Holy Paladin should be. Yes, the Holy Paladin's a healer, but it's also a spec that you should just be terrified to be anywhere near. I still like the fact that we have the option to sacrifice some of our health with Light of the Martyred in order to heal our allies in desperate situations. I think that having that option really sets us apart from other healers. The cooldown kit that we have available and the different talents that we can spec into for next expansion really is what's going to set us apart from other characters in the next expansion of BFA. As tank healing juggernauts, Paladins still exceed over any other class in my opinion when it comes to healing one target. With the options of using beacons or using AoE beacons when you spec into them through talents, it really makes the Paladin really feel flushed out and really its own thing. I believe any group would be really happy to have a Paladin in their team, and I think that if you're looking to play a Paladin, you're looking for the right spot. If you want to always be considered one of the most needed healers in a raid team, roll a Holy Paladin. Number 2. Resto Druid. Is this even fair? I mean, honestly, like, think about it. Druids on just about every expansion, I swear, they're just overly exceptional in whatever they do. I felt like Druids were so strong last expansion. For them to be as strong as they are this expansion seems kind of awkward. We're so lucky because for the most part, we haven't really lost much. We lost one of our biggest CDs for our HOTS, but realistically, even though we lost that CD, we still gained a lot of cool stuff through this expansion's launch. The newest ability they added, photosynthesis, where if you put Life Bloom on yourself, you end up increasing the healing over time of all your HOTS by like 15%, and I think that's absolutely insane and fun. It's nice to micromanage yourself instead of micromanaging your tanks with your Life Bloom. It's kind of cool to just walk around and reapply your own kind of like consistent buff to yourself in order to make yourself consistently play better and perform more in whatever environment you're in. The removal of Displacer Beast kind of sucks, but the gaining of Tiger's Dash honestly makes it more worthwhile in my opinion. Well, yeah, having a blink and being able to like jump over certain mechanics is really nice. Having a consistent sprint that's far better than sprint, in my opinion, is a lot more fun and enjoyable to have in gameplay, as you can see in a lot of the, and maybe you can see in the video, it was where I'm just jumping around like crazy because I'm moving so quick. And, you know, granted, it's probably super hard to like control that at first, but really you'll get into it pretty quickly, and it's actually a lot more fun than Displacer Beast. No one can argue the fact that Displacer Beast is an extremely exceptional ability, and, you know, it's going to be missed, but Tiger's Dash is a pretty good replacement. When it comes down to the Druid, yeah, we've lost some abilities, but we've also gained some abilities, and realistically, when it comes to playstyle, the playstyle is still as consistent and as fun and nuanced as it's always been. I'm not sure if I'm personally biased or not because I am swapping to play a Druid full-time next expansion, but I really do enjoy the playstyle of the Druid compared to the other healers so far. And the reason why I say I'm not really sure if I'm biased is because for the longest time I've disliked Druids. The only spec for Druids I've liked in the long run have always been Feral, but this expansion coming up, I'm pretty looking forward to playing every spec of the Druid, and I actually enjoy pretty much all of them. Even though in my last video I did comment on how I thought the playstyle of the bear tank was the worst, I still enjoyed playing it even though it was the worst in my opinion. Overall, it's impossible to talk about all the nuances of the Druid in this one video. I could hold an entire video on why I love the Druid and why I think that the spec is an extremely strong spec, but realistically, it's up to you to decide on what you really want. There's a lot more to the Druid than what I've just said right now, and if you're really interested in that spec and want to know how to play that more, I suggest watching Final Boss TV and seeing exactly how you can play this spec next expansion. If you're looking for a healer that's usually always consistent, it's going to be top of the charts, it's going to perform well every expansion, I suggest playing the Druid. Number 1. Discipline Priest. Alright, so I gotta be real with you guys for a minute. I really hate priests. I mean, I think that was pretty clear at the beginning of this video that I really hate priests. I didn't play this priest last expansion, so it's really hard for me to give it a comparison to last expansion compared to this expansion. But I have to say that this priest is easily, and I mean easily, the most fun healer I've played so far. The Atonement style of healing, the fact that I can ladle these types of different buffs on targets and then restricting down my fury onto the mobs and just micromanaging all these different things and making macros for all these different abilities to make sure that everything in my kit works properly is probably the thing I find the most interesting and the most fun. This priest have a pretty large kit in order to make their Atonement work. There's an ability, I don't really remember the ability itself, but there's an ability that has 2 charges, and if you use it, it gives everyone in your group Atonement. And then you proceed to rain down hellfire on the adds, and everyone gets healed. You've also got abilities in which, where if you do damage to a target while that certain ability is on the target, you end up radiating AoE and healing your team even more from that. Penance also, whenever you do damage with it, will heal the entire group for a certain amount, or if you heal someone with the Penance, it'll also radiate healing from the Penance. And I cannot talk enough about how intrinsically fun it is to play Disc Priest once you understand how the heal style works, and just understanding how the heal style works plus the use of its CDs in conjunction with what actual Atonement actually is really makes the spec feel fluent and fun. There's always a moment with healing where I just feel bored, because a lot of healing is just you casting and letting abilities go off, and then clicking the next person and casting and letting abilities go off. But when you're playing the Disc Priest, you're actively doing something at all times, proactively attacking a mob, proactively setting up for something that's going to happen sooner, just proactively figuring out what your best approach to each and certain encounter is going to be through the guise of a Disc Priest. It also helps the fact that for the most part, Disc Priests are majority instacast when it comes to their abilities in general. As far as DPS and as far as healing goes, a lot of your abilities are just flat out instant. Coming from someone who really enjoys the playstyle of melee, this is definitely one of the most fun and interesting specs for me, because there's a lot less downtime as opposed to other healers. Again, you know, for the same reasons that I like Holy Priest, they bring life grips, they bring angelic feathers, they bring all these different utilities to the group, to the encounter, that make them a wonderful and interesting spec, and that's why I enjoy the playstyle of this priest in such a way. With this video, my only hope is that some people will give priests more of a chance, and I mean for this priest specifically, because I know that last expansion did not receive as much of a Disc Priest following as it probably should have, and I really think you guys should give it a chance if you have the chance to. If you're looking for something fun, interesting, and different and strong, I'd suggest playing the Priest. When it comes to the unique feel of healing in general as a playstyle, I really feel like Disc Priests are really knocking it out of the park. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate it more than you could ever understand. Trust me when I say that you guys are awesome. I enjoy the conversations we have in the comments every week, and I really enjoyed the conversations this week by these different people that I've gotten on the comments, and I want you guys to just continue this conversation by letting me know what you guys thought about this video, and hopefully we can have another good discussion this week. Last week was awesome. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and a comment, and I promise you I respond to every single comment that ever goes on my videos. If you guys want to say I'm terrible at this, tell me I'm terrible. I promise I will be respectful in return. If you want to say that I did a good job, I appreciate that. Every little kind word helps. And with that, I have been Amarath, I have been Am Shady, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Have a great week, and peace.
Drama.